Hello, my name is Alex Brady, and I am from group number 52 in CS 6310, along with Brandon Hurst, Carolina Gonzalez, and Hugo Silva. And this is our Assignment 8 video demo. So to start off with, I'd like to show off our graphical user interface, which I have pulled up here. It allows us to do most of the same commands that we could before in the command line interface, but have a nice little graphical interface with buttons to use. So let's start with some basic commands real quick, and let's enter a little bit of test data. So I'm going to start by adding a couple stops here. Give it an ID, a name, number of riders, its coordinates, and I just hit run, and a new stop was created. So I'm going to go ahead and create a couple more stops here. Alright, here we go. Now I have 3 stops here. Now I can also add a new route. Give it an ID of 0. Call it the express route. Now I can add stops to this route. So I'm going to first add stop number 1, then I'll add stop number 2, and then I'll add stop number 0 there. Now next I can also add a bus. Route 0, start at location 0, no passengers, it can hold 35 passengers total. Traveled at 40 miles per hour. And new to the system is a fare option, which is our developer's choice feature that we decide to add. And this adds the usage of bus fare and train fare as well to the system so that the operators of the simulation can help determine how much profit they would make from transit fares. So we're going to make this bus $2, have a $2 fare. So we can see over here, new bus number 6 created. Now we also added the rails feature to this simulation, and we have a nice little easy option called add rail, which is very similar to add bus. So we give it an ID, assigned to route 0. Now it can hold 100 passengers, travel at a speed of 60 miles per hour, and it costs $3 to ride this train. So we can see a new rail was created. So now let's go and add some events. Now instead of a move bus event, we have a new move vehicle event to represent the more generic vehicle type that bus and rail inherit from. So let's move vehicle number 6, and then we can move vehicle number 0 to a new event here. Now down here we have a button that says 1 step. This just is the same as the step once command in the command line interface. Hit that, and it tells us that vehicle number 6 is driving on this route, is moving, and so on. We have another event in here, so we can step once one more. And we have the other event in there. So this is the very basics of simulation, most of which was already there, but we simply added a nice user interface to it. Now we also have the multi-step option here, which functions the same way as it did before. Down below here we have a few other options. We have the show report button, which prints the report of what the system is. Also have the display model button. That generates the dot file that we can open with xdot. And I have right here, and it shows what the system is like and what's going on with it. Nice little graphical version of it right there. Now we also have an upload data button here. Now what that simply does is uploads the MART database into our system. Now, part of our roads feature, we actually now use Google Maps API, and we actually hit our quota limit on the Google API, so I can't run that here in the simulation, but that simply just loads all the data from the database of the MARTA data. So let's talk about some of our other features that we implemented. And if we notice at the add stop but screen here, there was something I kind of skipped over. So I'd like to show that here. We now have the ability to load an address from coordinates or load coordinates from an address. So let's say I wanted to put into the system the Atlanta Braves new stadium, SunTrust Park. So I could put in their address here. And I could say load address. And then here it loads the correct longitude and latitude coordinates for the stadium. Or vice versa, we could put in coordinates and we could pick from addresses close to those coordinates. So if I enter in the coordinates for Georgia Tech here, and I say load address, it pops up several options here over on the side. I can just look and say, oh nope, that's not the one I want. Or I can go down here and say, oh, there we go, I want Georgia Tech. Then if I hit run, it would add that to the system with the correct longitude, latitude, and as well as its address here. So that helps us implement the roads feature, which I will talk about in a second here. The roads and the riders are not really fully seen here in the graphical user interface. They are in the code, but some of the stuff runs in the background. For example, I was talking about roads. With roads now, we have the ability to calculate the travel distance using the Google Maps API between different stops. And therefore, we can calculate the travel time based on the speed that the bus or the train is traveling at. We also have the ability to add traffic information in, such as our system checks to see if it's a rush hour, and if so, it adds extra time to the estimated travel time so that the next event for that vehicle will be the appropriate amount of time. The riders functionality has also been changed. Riders now enter the system with a destination in mind. So using the MARTA data or random data if no MARTA data is supplied, a rider enters into the system and is assigned a destination that they are going to. When they board a bus, they still have that destination attached to them, so that when that bus or train arrives at that stop, only the riders that are assigned to get off of that stop will get off at that stop. Now, instead of having a rider class, this data is actually just stored in the stops and in the bus and rail models. So this system will scale to tens and tens and thousands of riders, as it's just simply an integer keeping track of how many riders are getting off at which stops. I've already talked about the Rails feature we have here. That's seen in the GUI. And I've also talked a little bit about our developer's choice option. We've also added some better error checking to help make sure that user data that's inputted into the system is correct. This is our assignment 8, and we believe that this new simulation system would better help the user to generate different scenarios and to better get an understanding of how their mass transit system is working. Thank you.